Hey guys, I wanted to do this yesterday. I never ended up finding the time to do it. So what I wanted to do was just recap the ES swing long that I had. So I was long the S&P back from around 2700 up until yesterday when we hit roughly 2880. I didn't hold it all the way up to 2880. I took it off right around 27. No, it was 2874, I believe. Um, Either way, it was right around this test right here, and I was long from right around right here. And there's a lot that went into it, a lot of which I discuss in the structure course, but wanted to take the opportunity and do it here as well. So first things first, the first anchor that I had on my chart, first little section I had, so let's clean this up a little bit, was clearly that wasn't there, was this, right? So we had our 78.6 off of this run here. Now this was established because of two things, right? We broke this downtrend line, and in doing so, we also gave a perfect impulse retracement back down, which is where I started my anchor here. So a little bit of fib validation, which is something we discuss pretty in-depthly in the structure course. You see we hit that 61.8 pretty perfectly in going to test that trend line there. So we broke and retested that trend line. And then coming out of that zone, we had a really good demand zone that built out. So now we've already got great context for an entry, but it's not quite enough. So looking at the low side of this chart here, this area is all sorts of messy, right? But we've got a decent little jumping off point within there, within that little bit of a mess. And so we spike down a little bit lower, and from there we can start to build out some context. So I want to use this as my anchor, using fib validation. That's what I wanted to use as my anchor. Or that's what I didn't want to use as my anchor, excuse me. I didn't want to use this as my anchor. I didn't want to use this as my anchor because of fib validation. I did, however, want to use this right here as my anchor. So if we take this low, you can now see, excuse me, that we've built out a really nice zone. I'm going to highlight this area as what I'm talking about. So this was my entry zone. Now just to add a little bit more confirmation, we get a great little bear run on the way down. So I'm sitting here waiting for this test, and we get a nice test of the 78.6 off of that bear run down, quick spike back up, and we fill and we start running back towards our structure. And you can see that that negative 61.8, that second profit target there, sits right within our buy zone, sits right within the area that we wanted to get long. So I got long right at 20, I believe it was 26.95 or 26.94. It was a hectic day yesterday, so I'm having difficulty remembering. But originally, I wanted to talk a little bit about trade management. Originally, I had my stop loss set. I'm just doing this so that I can color my stop loss. So originally, with that entry, I had my stop loss set just below this structure because I knew it was a swing trade, so I had it just below 26.80. You see that there are a couple of spikes right here, a little bit of structure. So that's where my stop loss was originally, 26.80. So then we started to make a run out of this level. So you can see that our first run out, we come back and we test that 78.6 off of this impulse run. and then we skyrocket out of there and we complete profit targets, and we do that rather quickly. Now you might not be able to see it on the daily chart, but if you want to look a little closer, I recommend maybe getting opening up this chart. I'll try and zoom in a little bit, but opening up this chart, see that you can see the separation between, between the this second little test here. It's about 26.98 down to 26.94. So we've got about 4 points of separation from where I entered to where it dragged, where it dragged itself down to retest before taking off. So I hadn't moved my stop loss just yet, but after we made that retracement and started to push back up, that's when my stop got trailed. So I trailed my stop to break even, not quite to the low that we tested there, until we broke through right here. Until we broke through this high. Once we kind of fell out of this level here and then pushed through that high, that was important. Once we pushed through that high, and if you look here, we hold our high to high 50. Something else that's discussed at length in the structure course is leveraging those high to high. So this was my low point. So I know that the high to high 50 was right here. I know that this is the last structure that was breached, and I know that this is the structure that we pushed it through, that we just pushed through with some strength. So I had a decision to make here. Do I play it conservative and do I push down below this the high to high 50, or do I play it aggressive and do I position myself with my stop loss down below this piece of structure right here? Because if you look at that high to high 50 retracement and where we came off there, you get this level holding as the 50%. So for me, I played it aggressive. I decided that I didn't want to give that dip back, and if we did fall down that way and hit that high to high 50 again, then I could re-enter. So I placed my stop just below this point right here, this 27.84, and just below, using that high to high 50 as the anchor for this retracement, below here too. So I gave myself a little bit of wiggle room, and someone in the room had asked yesterday if it was hard to hold until my my profit target got hit. It really wasn't. It really wasn't all that hard. If I were to grab and reestablish that right there, so we hit the negative 23.6. I didn't move my profit target, or I didn't move my stop loss, because there was so much structure around this area right here, and clearly this wasn't here, but we had the all-time highs. We had our negative 61.8, and we had an ABCD, plus we had an impulse run profit target that got established in the shorter term, which was a little bit closer to when we had approached that zone. But if we take this again, you can see that we completed this fib structure, but then we never breached back into that fib structure. So for me, what I was looking to do was capitalize on the fact that this overall structure here and this overall structure here held. So this held, right? This initial impulse run where I established that low. Let me just redraw that so that I can show you what I'm talking about and where my stop is. So I'm down below the 61.8 right here. I'm down below the 50. I'm down below structure. My stop loss is still right here, and I didn't move that. I didn't move that as we approached that negative 23.6. Instead, I moved this, and that gave me profit targets off of great fib structure. So now we've got this zone that's still holding. We've got additional fib context there, and you can see that we come back up and we test off of this great fib structure. We test breaching the highs, but we never come close to testing the first profit target off of this very formulated and very measured move. So for me, that negative 23.6 was really, because it lined up so well with the negative 61.8 and this impulse profit target, it made it's so much easier to sit and wait, especially when you factor in after we started making those that high where it crossed. So this became the ideal exit, right? So it wasn't super difficult to hold while we came close to testing here because I knew that I was comfortable at this point giving back this, this little bit right here, this 2780 up to 2860. So it's still about 70, 80 points, but it's, at that point when you've been in the trade for so long, it's gravy. It's a risk you're willing to take. And I did pull it up closer to, excuse me, that structured high right there. Once we came down from this level, I actually might have pulled it. Yes, I did. So once we had that 78.6, right, I pulled it pretty close to a little bit higher than where it currently is drawn. I pulled it closer towards that low right here, this 27.95, and I held on to it until we tagged those profit targets up above. So that covers the overall run that trade was. Now, yesterday I showed profits briefly on it. I'm going to show the trade again just so that I can, just because I got a couple of people that asked, who I'm sharing this video with outside of BTG. So this was the trade from yesterday. You can see that this is an account report from my swing account. The only trade that I took yesterday was taking that trade off, and it was just 69,600, so 69,600. So that was a great run up. I was in that trade since June 28th, so almost 2 months. But I held it for quite some time. That was the management that went into the trade itself and my thought process behind it. I rambled a little bit, but I hope it helps clear some things up. And if it doesn't, then by all means ask some questions.